So the attention and focus on retail investing and the influence of forums, Reddit forums, Wall Street Bets, whatever you want to look at on the internet continues. We're talking about GEO Group today. GEO Group specifically seems to be the latest attention getter from Wall Street Bets. We'll discuss Clover a little bit here as well, guys, but I want to show you right off the bat the latest headline here. Prison operator. This is a private prison operator we're talking about. GEO Group up big time today after a mention on Reddit. Yes, there is a short percent involved here. We'll discuss that as well, but 36% to the upside today. At this point, it was much higher than that. We're talking about a 33% short interest in GEO. What is it about, Reddit, obviously, Wall Street Bets, that is seems to be gaining more attention, gaining more traction here? They're picking on anything, it seems, today, GEO, with a 30% short interest.
Yeah, 100, like you said, picking on anything that works ultimately, because what you're seeing happen is, look, if you're investing in a speculative stock and anything that's not paying you a dividend, it's worth what someone else is willing to pay you for it. So momentum is a thing. And what causes that momentum ultimately doesn't matter if you're able to profit from a trade. So, I think some traders are recognizing this, and of course Wall Street Bets is as well. So they're looking for these next squeeze plays. And yes, it's over 30% short interest when we had last checked. But the other worth noting here, it's done about 100 million shares in volume today and a monster volume spike. The float on this thing is only about 117 million as well. So liquidity can be a bit of a concern. And that's another reason why you might have a bit of a squeeze. Then you talk about the downward proportion of the chart. You have actually a bit of a wipeout bottom that got made a couple of sessions ago. From a technical standpoint, it was sort of breaking that bottom and breaking past like a 50 period. Like a lot of these other signs that maybe not every heavily shorted name would have in there. And then you finally get this breakout today, and then it becomes like just a pure momentum thing. So when you start asking yourself, how do you spot the Clovers and in this case, the GEOs of the world, you start to find some of these things that have rounded off of those lows, that have either that low float and the short percentage. And then once they get going, if there is a bit of a stop area there, I think maybe that even helps. The fact that the risk to reward from like a 650, where this had come from, down into that like 5, that just sort of maybe even adds to that little that pool of a desire to jump into that trade for some of those at Wall Street Bets. So you have to start thinking with the pack as a trader if you want to be playing this momentum, because sometimes it's about finding that next one, the GEOs, the Clovers of the world, Sean.
And that's what I want to talk about as well, was the fact that, you talked about it already. I have it here from Trade Ideas. The short float, 35, like Brendan just said, 34, 35%. They're all going to get calculated a little differently. And then look at the volume today, 1,800% up. So, you're looking for big volume plays, and you're trying to find the next one, right? And so here's GEO today, 100 million shares. And, my advice is, if you find one of these and you're not really certain that there's any fundamental reasons, then you may want to get out pretty early, because this topped out at $11, which is a great increase as opposed to where we are now. And then now we halt back. Well, we halted in there and then popped, but now we're back down to 8 and change. Still, 39% is great, but remember, what they're looking for is just stuff that's going to trigger, right? So Joe Biden talking about federal versus private care, the detention facilities. So there's going to be stuff there that sort of fuels the Reddit army, right? And I just think that that's very, very important. There needs to be catalysts, so far anyways, behind these moves. We talk about AMC and what that was, right? Adam Aaron, CEO, releasing more shares. That gets bought up, right? We talked about a rebuild in their brand, a reopening of the economy. That's big. GameStop, very, very similar, right? New management, people coming in. So, there needs to be some sort of a reason why this goes in order to scare away, I believe, some of the shorts. So there's lots of stuff happening here. GEO is another one, but how you're going to find these is look for small stories that perhaps can spark new interest in names, and then pick names that have short floats in that space. I think that's what's going to work.
All right, so we saw 700 million shares plus traded on Clover Health yesterday, of all things. That had a big move. The question here, guys, do we get a multi-day move in the Clover Health and the GEOs, as we've seen in AMCs and some of these other names?
I think what will probably start to happen is, like, the more that there are, like, as you expand, and it's not just one or two, like it was GameStop and AMC, and then it expanded to things like Bed Bath & Beyond and BlackBerry. And when that list starts getting bigger and bigger and bigger, I think the moves aren't as extended in terms of how many days they are. Now, all this being said, you are seeing a bit of a pullback in Clover, which is down 15% on the day. But when AMC and GameStop were making their moves and continued for longer periods of time, there were pullbacks. It did not signal that it was over by any stretch of the imagination. So, for the momentum traders that are looking for these types of plays, yeah, of course, no one ever went broke taking profit, but look back to previous squeezes to have an idea for time frame, especially in compare size to size. Like if it's a certain size of a company that does X amount of volume, then maybe compare that to a previous squeeze and something similar. I'm not sure, the volatility in Clover is not done because we're still sitting, like 3x from the bottom here, up at $18. So there's probably a big monster move probably coming in the next couple of days, whether it consolidates and goes again, or whether it's going to flush all the way down into those lows. There's almost no chance that it doesn't barcode for too long. That usually happens like 3 or 4 days into it. So as much as you want to be also following and finding that next one in there, don't write these off in terms of giving you catalysts for day trades and short-term trades just because it's day 2 or 3.
Yeah, and I was just going to say basically the exact same thing there. What we're talking about here when we look at Clover and AMC is that, look, the difference here, in my opinion, so far anyways, is when you look here, the volumes kind of remained pretty high, and AMC hasn't really, although you get these big spikes to 75, that's always going to happen, on the first or second day of some of these moves, but it's actually holding up pretty good. So we'll wait to see if on second day, GEO, Clover, some of these things, third day, fourth day, fifth day, I mean, really, this is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So we're over a week now of trading, and AMC's kind of held up with volume sticking. I mean, it's never going to be at its peak, but I think volume and then multi-day supports are key for these moves, Brendo.
So it seems like GEO is the next up on the Reddit's Wall Street Bets list of stocks. So we'll watch GEO Group going forward. We'll watch Clover Health going forward. Amazing trading opportunities, regardless, being created by this attention from these forums and retail investors. So make sure you know what the next one is, guys. A few keys there on how to find it. Let's go to Valeria.
Hey guys, thank you for this informative content. Dear viewers, please subscribe to this channel to see more great videos.